I just say you just got to give it a try.
Yeah.
Like, the hard experiences are not going to go away being a person of color. And you got to find your people. That honestly is it. Like, finding your people will just make it so much easier to handle some of those challenges and situations that you're put in. And, a great start is going into the office of belonging. I promise there's so many people in there willing to get to know you and want to get to know you. The multicultural office, the international office, and they're all grouped in the same office now. And it can be daunting to go in there. I totally understand. It can be loud. There's a lot of people in there, but it's for everyone. And, there are things at BYU, and sometimes they're hard to come by, but there's opportunities to be involved in, like, cultural events, like any, like, holiday that highlights a specific community. BYU's doing something, or not, like a office or a group is sponsoring something. So just get involved as much as you can, and obviously do what you're comfortable with. You don't necessarily owe anyone anything. But yeah, I think just recognizing that it's not going to be perfect, but there are people that do care, even though there might be few. There are people that do care, and you just got to find them.
Okay, cool. We'll go ahead and get started then. Welcome, Gabe, Bori, to the Wilson Seneca podcast. Thanks so much for making the time. I'm super excited to just get to know you. We haven't met before.
No, we haven't.
This is a long time coming too with the podcast.
It's been like rain check 3 times and we're here.
Yeah, I'm really glad we made it happen though. You just were someone that Jack Dearden mentioned or recommended, that I reach out to, a fellow art director in the advertising program. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. So you sent me a bio, and I kind of just want to briefly go over the bio.
Sure.
And then I kind of have some questions that we can get started with. So you are from Lehigh, and you're a senior, like I mentioned, in the advertising program, the creative track as an art director, and are minoring in sociology.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Most people in the advertising program aren't minoring in anything.
Not really.
Yeah.
There's a few, and most that I know that are minoring, actually minoring in sociology. There's like 3 or 4 of us.
Really?
And then I know if you did business, but that's beyond me.
Why do you think, like, what's the draw towards sociology, and why do you think other kids also do sociology and advertising?
I think there's a few different reasons. I'll tell you why I minored in sociology. So when you apply to the ad program, you have a gap semester essentially because you don't know if you got in or not, so you're kind of just dangling.
Right.
Like, did I get in? And so that was me, and I had time, and what I probably should have done was take the comms required classes.
Yeah.
But I did it. I actually didn't know you could take those, so when you're watching this, you can take media law and ethics before you get in.
Right.
Anyway, so I was looking at minors, and I wanted to minor in psychology, but that would have required me to take stats again. And so I didn't want to take stats again. And so I was going through like the whole list of minors, and I came across sociology, and I had never taken a sociology class before. And so that semester I signed up for 3.
Oh, wow. So
I ended up taking 3 at once, and I loved it. I was drawn to sociology because I wanted to learn about people. That's what drew me to psychology, but that took a turn because I didn't want to have to take stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I took sociology, and it was only 15 credit hours, so I knocked it out in 2 semesters, and it was great. It was awesome. So yeah, the advertising major is so short, I'm not sure how people don't take a minor or something else because you need the extra credit.
Yeah.
So everything worked out, and it was an incredible experience.
That's really cool. And it's true because, I mean, my understanding thus far of the advertising program, obviously I'm not in it yet, but just like talking to other people in it, is you have such little credits to focus on like being in the AdLab and like working on projects and stuff. Will you say that's accurate, or like it's also, I guess for you, in your case, it gives you an opportunity to pursue like another minor and stuff like that?
I will say that once you're in the program, it's hectic.
Yeah.
It's very crazy. And sometimes it's crazy as you want it to be because everything is so self-driven. There's no one there like saying, okay, this is due or you need to get this done. It's all like you do what you want to do because your work is a reflection of who you are. And that's, what recruiters are more interested in. And so I wouldn't let the minimal credits like distract anyone from thinking that it's not hard.
Yeah.
Like it's very rigorous, like more like in a completely different way than like the rest of my classes. So
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of work.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I'm just gonna keep going with your bio.
Yeah.
So you spent the last year working as a head graphic designer in the multicultural office at BYU, which is sweet. Made stuff for like the Powwow and Fiesta Perspectives. Got into photography when you were 13, which kind of sparked your interest for creativity. And, explored other mediums such as film, design, publishing, which led you to the AdLab as an art director. And it says here you have a passion for storytelling. Would you say that same passion for storytelling is kind of linked to, your sociology major and just like a love for people in general?
I would say so. I feel I am just always interested in people. I think people are fascinating and everyone is so different, has their own story, and I really value that and value people as individuals. And I think it's like very rewarding to like learn from other people and, see what they have to say. And I think to your point, that is a major reason why I was led to sociology is because it like just the whole time I was in that minor, I was just learning about other people and the issues that affect them or the way that we interact with each other. And so it just was like a perspective change for me for the better. And so, yeah, I think storytelling is more than just writing words and then sharing it with people.
Yes.
It's really about like the emotions, the connection, like what can I get from somebody, and then like how can I maybe either apply that or like change myself or others for the better. So does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree. I kind of, have the same outlook on just life in general. Like that's kind of one of the reasons I love this podcast is you are able to meet people and in 45 minutes go from, mere acquaintances to like understanding like their life story and their perspective on like important issues and have like impactful conversation. And I actually have felt, I took in the Ballard Center, the social impact class, Do Good Better. That isn't in the sociology major, is it? It's different. Okay. Or minor. Because that isn't a major. Anyway. I just have felt that it's very important just to like understand like people and like the community that you're in and just to, have a positive impact on it. So I think that's really cool. And I wanted to kind of start with, your experience with creativity. You mentioned, you started at 13 with photography. What was that like? Did you just have like an iPhone or how did that start?
So when I think I was in 7th grade, I just asked my parents for a little camera for Christmas and they got me like this tiny little digital something, and that's where I started. It was probably like this cheap $100-$200 camera, and I was so grateful that they were willing to invest that in me, and I just picked it up, started taking pictures like everywhere I went, and then a year later I'm like, can I get a nicer camera?
Yeah.
And so they helped me get that as well, and then from there it just kind of took off. I started taking pictures of my friends and I would plan shoots and we would, go all do these all cool photo shoots and stylized pieces. And then in high school is where it just like turned into like a little side hobby. I was like doing it for money now, and I still do it on the side today, and I love it. But I think again, it was more about storytelling. It was just a way for me to express what I wanted to, and it was a way for my brain to just put something out there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't know what sparked my interest in asking my parents for a camera,
Yeah.
but I'm grateful nonetheless. It's been awesome, and that eventually led me to do like video stuff in high school, and so I was on our team where we would produce YouTube videos for our like entire school every week, and I ended up going to New York City for a competition involved in that, and I did a lot of cool promo stuff, and I feel like that was my first exposure to advertising. Like I was kind of making little ads, but I didn't know it at the time. And then I ended up like editor in chief of the yearbook, still doing
Wow.
photo stuff. I was always doing photo at sports, like Premier football and basketball, and just taking pictures of everything. And so everyone was like, you're the guy who like does the photo and the video, and that people like to this day are like, oh, you were doing this, I remember this. And so yeah, I just have always been drawn to like that form of creativity. Of course, creativity has a lot of different ways of being expressed, but
Right.
the visuals is where it got me. So
That's really cool. Could you tell me a little bit about that competition that you mentioned? Like, what was that like? What were you competing for?
yeah, so it felt a lot bigger when I was there. It was my first time to New York City, and I was just with a group of my peers and some friends, and so we went to the Big Apple, the big city. And
Yeah.
I've never been before, and I was I think 17 at this point,
Okay.
and it was called the All American High School Film Festival, and they went every year, and I was just looking forward to this for so long, and I think it was a great experience. Like at the time, like looking back, I'm like, oh, that was just like a small little thing, but it was like there were students from all over the world there. We were competing with schools from all over the country, but I got assigned to do like a news broadcasting, which was such a like a stab to the heart. Like I wanted to do like the creative like film narrative or this, and I got stuck doing a news broadcast, but we ended up taking second.
Cool.
So, and we were competing with schools all over the place, and we beat the schools in Utah that I wanted to. Just I think it was more just to prove like, hey, like we're just as good. We can do this too.
Yeah.
Their videos were great as well, but yeah, it was just us, a camera, and a little team just scrambling for 2 days to make this 1 minute film about the film festival.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So was it the film festival? Did they like assign you what your assignment was?
No, my teacher.
Your teacher did.
I was, when I got that, I was like,
You were bummed out.
I was a little bit, but we did it. I filled a few different roles. I feel like that was my first kind of directing experience, so it was a good experience.
That's cool. So would you say, starting with photography, doing more film in high school and stuff like that, what is like your preferred medium of like creative expression, would you say?
Ooh, that's a great question. For me as an individual, photography.
Okay.
I feel I understand that really well. Video, like there are principles that carry throughout both. Video can get a lot more complicated with the equipment, and then you start introducing like more complex things like audio, lighting, like scripts, narratives, actor, like all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it like films are a lot of work.
Yeah.
Where photography is a lot of work as well in many cases, but for me that's my thing. And I do love video, but I love different aspects about video and film, and that's more so like art direction, set, and some other things there. But yeah, I would say photography. And I have done a lot of design work. I do enjoy design. That's probably what I've been doing more so recently, especially with my job at, in the multicultural office. And I really enjoy that too. It's just a completely different way because you're making everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, probably photography and design.
That's cool. Is there like a specific type of photography that you're drawn towards, like things that you like to photograph?
So when I first started out, I was shooting everything but people. I feel like
Okay.
when you enter into the like realm of portrait photography, it's a lot different because then it's suddenly like a person that's like breathing and has emotions.
Yeah.
And that's an art in itself, is interacting with clients, with people, and like they don't have, if they're not like a professional model or don't have experience, it's really you guiding them through that, and they're not seeing what you're seeing. So they honestly put like trust in you to, especially when you're getting paid.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of responsibility. Is like, oh no, this person is paying me. I need to do a good job. And yeah.
Cool. That's sweet. So yeah, you kind of started with photography and, learned through high school, other mediums to express yourself, ended up at BYU. Did you apply other places? Why was it that you decided to end up at BYU?
So I actually never wanted to go to BYU. I feel like since I was a child, I always just had this vision of going somewhere else. I never wanted to go to BYU and like kind of have the same experiences I was having it, like just growing up here in Utah.
Yeah.
And so I think COVID really jumbled things up. And I automatically got into a few schools in Utah, like without applying.
That's crazy.
And then I applied to the University of Utah and BYU, and ultimately just decided to go to BYU. It was cheaper, it was closer, and I feel at the time it just worked better, but I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stumbled into the AdLab. Back to the psychology. I wanted to study psychology, and then decided that's not what I want to do. And so I really honed in on like my passion for photography and video and like wanting to just make stuff. And so I came across this BYU takeover on Instagram, and these AdLab students were kind of showing that the work that they do, and they were explaining what the AdLab is. And I saw that and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to do. And so I just went for it. Like, I didn't try anything else. I just went for it. And it worked out. It's been an incredible experience, and I can't believe it's almost over.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny because when I ask people, why they chose BYU, I feel like the majority of the time they're like, I didn't even want to go to BYU. And it's a similar thing with the advertising program. I feel like a lot of people just kind of stumble upon the program, not knowing about it beforehand. But once they, make that decision, they just go in like full-fledged, like full effort to make it happen, which I think is really cool. What would you say is like one of the, pros of attending a school like BYU or like going through the advertising program specifically at BYU?
Yeah, being at BYU has been a great experience. Obviously, ups and downs. There's things that, you deal with every day, and you're just like sometimes it feels like high school.
Yeah.
Like for me, at least, because I went to high school like 20 minutes up the street.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, sometimes it's not great, but other aspects have been great. I feel there's just a great spirit here, for whatever that means for people, and like people have been incredible. It took me a while to find where I felt like I could exist and I could belong, and a lot of that was just finding people that I had a lot of things in common with. And so when I got into the AdLab, that's kind of where I felt like that was my place at BYU. And so initially, like the first years, I was ready to be done. Like I wanted to transfer, especially during COVID. I didn't want to be here. But I think BYU is unique. Of course, I haven't attended any other universities.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to disregard like the challenges that come with BYU, and especially as like being multicultural myself, and I can't like talk on behalf of anyone else but myself. But when there's like not that many minority people, that is isolating for a lot of individuals, and I've definitely felt that myself. But I have seen like a lot of recent efforts with the Office of Belonging and the office I worked in of trying to like remedy some of that isolation, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But I appreciate efforts like that, and a lot of universities doing similar things. But I feel like recently BYU has been making efforts to show that like they want to improve, and so I've been grateful for that. Not that everything's been perfect by any means, but I think overall, I think there's just like a genuine like good atmosphere here at BYU, and I don't know how to explain it or to experience it, and so there's just a lot of incredible people here that I've come across, and I've had really great mentors and professors I've been so grateful for, and they not in all cases, but especially my ad professors, they really do care, and I feel that stems from like maybe some BYU context and like the church of just like a desire and a practice of caring about other people. I've had professors that I feel like didn't care about me, but
Yeah.
like as far as like AdLab goes, to your question, like I feel like they do put a lot of time and effort into at least being there for you as much as they can.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. For, someone who may be going through a similar experience, especially those, in the 1% of, the population of BYU that are in the minority group, what would be your kind of recommendation to them? And then my follow-up would be, what do you feel like those in the 99% can do to be better at being more aware of those in that party?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So again, speaking for myself, each person in my position, there's just so many factors, and this is like stemming from my studies in sociology and just my own experiences, getting to know people, interacting with them, and working at my office. I just say you just got to give it a try.
Yeah.
Like the hard experiences are not gonna go away being a person of color, and you got to find your people. That honestly is it. Like finding your people will just make it so much easier to handle some of those challenges and situations that you're put in. And a great start is going into the office of belonging. I promise there's so many people in there willing to get to know you and want to get to know you. The multicultural office, the international office, and they're all grouped in the same office now. And it can be daunting to go in there. I totally understand. It can be loud. There's a lot of people in there, but it's for everyone. And there are things at BYU, and sometimes they're hard to come by, but there's opportunities to be involved in like cultural events, like any like holiday that highlights a specific community. BYU is doing something, or not, like a office or a group is sponsoring something. So just get involved as much as you can, and obviously do what you're comfortable with. You don't necessarily owe anyone anything. But yeah, I think just recognizing that it's not going to be perfect, but there are people that do care, even though there might be few. There are people that do care, and you just got to find them. So, and just own it. Honestly, like, I feel like I have started owning like who I am and where I come from being at BYU. And I wouldn't say that BYU is a cause of that, but just, just other factors. And I feel like becoming comfortable with yourself can also be helpful when you're put in situations where you would probably be uncomfortable with yourself if people are, making comments about you or where you come from and stuff like that. So if you're just solid in yourself and just own it, I feel like you can just kind of like block all that out. But for the other like 99% of people who aren't in that space, just an open heart and open ears. Listening is such a powerful tool that I feel people undervalue. There's so much to learn and figure out about people when you just listen. It's really easy to make judgments and stereotypes, and I promise those do way more damage than you think that they do. And a lot of the things that I see a lot of people excuse some of the things that they say or do, thinking it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because like things like racism and like microaggressions and prejudice aren't always like as blatant as people think it is. Like it can be really subtle, and it still has like equatable impact. And so I just like self-reflection is powerful too. I myself have had to do a lot of learning, especially in regards to like other communities and learning like what I can do. And again, the Office of Belonging and the Multicultural Office are both spaces for everyone to come and learn. My office puts on multicultural events throughout the year, and those are for everyone to participate in. It doesn't matter where you come from, or like anyone can participate in those. That's a really good experience to learn from other multicultural people and to also be involved in different cultures. So again, there's more opportunities to be involved at BYU in that sense, but really just listening and having a desire to care, I think, goes a long way.
I think that's really cool. I've never thought about, you know, just walking into the office of belonging and just like, regardless of, you know, who you are or your background or whatever it is, but just going in and, you know, making an effort to learn and be educated and try to, you know, foster to those that, you know, aren't feeling like they are belonging in the university. I think that's a really cool suggestion and something that I will definitely be doing soon.
No, please do.
As for your time in the multicultural office, were there any like projects or events that you kind of worked on that were particularly meaningful to you?
Yes. I think they were all meaningful to me in one way or another. I feel I just really valued and enjoyed getting to be familiar with other cultures and getting to know the students that were within those cultures. And, you know, they were all incredible experiences. The two that stand out for me were Perspectives, which is an event in February celebrating the Black diaspora. I put a lot of work and effort into that one, and it really came together. And the students that put on that event were phenomenal. It was just an incredible experience. And I, you know, befriended so many individuals from that. And it really was just, that was like my first big, and that's probably the most involved I've ever been in an event. But it was just an incredible experience. And then, you know, this past November, we held Fiesta. And that one was so personal to me. And for me to see my work on the screen in front of, like, university, like, the president was there, his wife was there, like, the deans were there. And just for them to, you know, see something that I did. And for also students, I think more importantly, for them to see what I did. And that was just so rewarding. And again, all the hard work and effort that went into that and to be part of that was just so incredible. And I'm grateful for everyone involved and for the experience that it provided. So
That's awesome. Can you kind of explain a little bit like what exactly your job is as the head? Is it the head designer, or what was the exact title for
yeah,
it?
so like on paper, it's tech and design lead. So I oversee anything visual. So photography, videography, the design work, and some other, you know, random things here and there. But my role was mainly doing the graphic design work for all of the major events. With help from an incredible person named Layla. I have to give her credit where it's due. She definitely helped on a lot. So shout out Layla. But yeah, so that's what I started out as, and I feel I was doing such a good job that my role became different, where I became more in charge of things. I still kind of carried on that responsibility of doing the design.
Yeah. So design as in like you're making flyers, or
Yeah, so every event has a unique, like, promotional design that actually gets displayed during the event, and these things get sent to thousands of students. And so they are flyers, they're posters, they're things on social media, but each event, like, has a design, and then that gets, you know, sent out in whatever medium that it needs to. And so, yeah, I'd love to talk about that process. It's really interesting.
yeah, go for it.
So I really made an effort to kind of break away from past work that had been done. Not to say that it was bad by any means, but I really wanted to push the boundaries of being as creative as I could. Obviously, like, within a BYU context, I needed to keep it, you know,
Yeah.
under some realm of,
Yeah, it can't be too
like,
unhinged.
order. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I would conduct a lot of research before I did each one. And I just wanted to learn, first of all. You know, a lot of these were not my own culture. And I said, well, I'm not the one to be, you know, trying to talk about it or
Yeah.
present it. And so I would do a lot of research, and I would try to find, like, one thing that was, like, unique about it that maybe wasn't as familiar. And I really was just looking for something that was really, like, visually interesting. And so, you know, after I would kind of mock stuff up, I would show it to people of that community. I would show it to my supervisors. I would show it to advisors, or, you know, just whoever would be the right person to make sure that this was good. I would do it. And, you know, I had great success doing that. I got a lot of great feedback. I'm sure there was always a few people here and there that are like, I don't like this. This is blah, blah. that's just gonna happen. I'm sorry. I tried my best. I really did. But yeah, overall, really great feedback, and people, it was just so awesome. And I was so grateful for the people that went out of their way to say, hey, thank you. Like, this is really awesome. We've never seen anything like this before. And, you know, I think some of the ones I'm most proud of, perspectives again, I used in kind of like a stylistic image of an individual with an afro. And, you know, for Black students at BYU, I know a lot of them feel like they have to kind of keep their hair a certain way. And I think some of that stems maybe from the honor code. And a lot of it's just internalized, just from, you know, poor experiences. And it, for me to like represent that with just like natural hair and put that on a massive poster and then put that literally all over like the BYU community, like the president's, like, I just feel like that was just a little space carved. And I feel like when we're exposed to things like that, you just become normalized and be like, hey, this is, I'm not saying that the poster went that far,
Yeah.
but it was just like a little something to kind of like, and it was bright and yellow. That thing
That's
was
sick.
just in the Wilk and everywhere that people saw it. And I got great feedback on that one as well. So yeah.
That's really cool. How did you go about conducting research? Was it mainly just like online, or was it a lot of like primary research as well?
Yeah, I would talk to people as much as I could. A lot of it came from maybe inspiration I had seen online. I would gather a lot of information just looking at pictures of people or the things that they were doing within their own culture. And a lot of times I would look at patterns within their culture. And I did a few designs based off of, you know, patterns that were specific to particular culture. And yeah, I would just talk to people within that community. And so I think, yeah, sure, I did Google some stuff. And obviously I was looking at sources that were scholarly or like firsthand account kind of things. I wasn't like looking at descriptions of third party.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I was probably putting more sociology in there. I'm like, I need to look up academic back research. But yeah, I just found inspiration wherever I could. And so a great place is always to start online, but that's not the end all be all. So
Yeah. No, that's super cool. And I'm blanking. I just had a question I was going to ask as a follow-up. Oh yeah. What was kind of, are you still working there?
I just quit.
You just quit. Okay. So you were there for what, a year? Over a year? Okay. What would you say was like the biggest takeaway from your time working there?
Ooh. I had so many. It really was an incredible experience, and it was hard to leave. But, you know, sometimes you just have to make life changes. And anyway, I learned so much. And obviously I wasn't expecting to learn that much when I stumbled into there too.
Really?
I filled out half the application, got a phone call from Chalet, who I ended up like taking over her position. And she said, hey, do you want to finish filling this out? And I was like, what? Anyway, ended up working there, obviously. It's been great. So I think my biggest takeaways were, how do I like put this in like a succinct, because it's just, they're just such big, I feel like personally, I like gathered this notion of having an open heart and open mind and entering situations with other people with like the least amount of judgment or like whatever, you know, you kind of just put on people, and just really try my best to learn. And I learned a lot from, you know, other students, and each individual I interacted with just had so much to offer from their own life or their own culture. And I really, working there, I really saw the value in what that office does and what efforts like that do for students. I can't even explain the impact that those events have on the people involved, with the people that watch. Like, you just got to think about this. When you go about BYU, academically and you're through your classes, and especially for multicultural people, you're one of 3 people of color in like a whole room,
Yeah.
and you kind of just internalize that, and for me, I hit it honestly, and then to be able to participate or watch an event where you can kind of be like, this is who I am. Like it might move you to tears. Like some of the feedback from the community and the people involved, and it's just the work is valuable. So
yeah, that's awesome. There's something else I wanted to ask you about. I forgot to bring it up earlier. But in your bio, you mentioned you enjoy architecture.
yeah,
which I think is really cool. What does that mean necessarily? Like, do you like building things? Do you just kind of have an appreciation for architecture? Do you like, taking pictures of it, or what does that mean for you?
All of the above. I was obsessed with Legos as a kid.
Nice.
Oh my gosh,
That's fun.
I don't want to play with anything else. It was like Legos and dirt. Like those were my 2 things. When I was a child, I had like a Tonka truck. I would rip apart my mom's garden with like water. I was like building rivers and like holes and stuff. And I just always was hands-on, loved building things. And I feel like I still have like some of those tendencies now, but I don't know. I've always loved architecture. When I was in 3rd grade, we had an assignment to make our own book.
Mm-hmm.
I did mine on buildings.
That's
Everyone
crazy.
else was like, Sally went to the store, and here I am like, this is the Willis Tower, this is the Burj Khalifa, this is the Taj Mahal, and I drew it all by hand and wrote about it.
Wow.
And my parents got me this book about skyscrapers. I wouldn't read anything else. I don't know. So I don't know where it came from. Probably like that, just like love of building stuff.
Yeah.
It really is an art form. And if I wasn't doing advertising, I'd probably be an architect of some sort, because I think it's so interesting. It's so creative too. It's not always practical, but it's really interesting that people kind of walk past buildings and don't realize that someone came up with that. And, Provo's not the best example of like good architecture,
Yeah.
but, it's just so interesting, like how people use like brick and mortar as a way to express creativity.
Yeah.
And I feel like people will really benefit from that. It just really is like this interesting atmosphere when you're just looking at something that's cool and you can go inside of it.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, but yeah.
That's sweet. Is there a building in Provo though that you're like,
Ooh.
this is cool? Like, maybe overall it's not the most spectacular in terms of architecture. I mean, I feel like most of us are living in pretty cheap,
Yeah.
not well kept apartments. Is there anything that comes to mind? You're like, no, this is like a good representation, like a cool building in Provo.
Yeah, there's not many. And BYU, I'm so sorry. I look at other campuses, I'm like, so BYU, the major building is cool. I think that was like the first building on campus. It's
Gotcha.
got like neoclassical. It's got the columns. It's got, I think, Ionic columns. I don't know. That one's really interesting. It stands out. Everything else on that campus, it's like very 70s, 80s, like
Yeah.
mid-century, like postmodern. It's in Provo, Center Street's really cool.
I love Center
It
Street.
maintained a lot of the buildings there. Like the New Skin building's ugly. I will say that. I'm so sorry. I don't know what they were thinking with that. The temple's really pretty too. I don't know what to classify that as, but
City Center or Provo?
City Center, yeah, not the Provo.
Not a fan.
Not the birthday.
You're happy to see it go down in a couple of months?
Not that happy to see it go down.
See it be built back up.
Yeah, see it be built back up
There you
to something much nicer. So, the city and county building,
Yeah.
house, it's right across from the temple.
Mhm.
That's probably, like, as far as pro architecture goes, that one.
That's the top.
Government buildings from like back in the day are always really interesting. So
That's cool. Have you ever been to Washington D.C. before?
I haven't. It's on the list.
That's
There's so much to see.
That's
there.
where I grew up.
No
So
way.
yeah, I had a lot of opportunities. Well, I grew up like 30 minutes
Yeah.
south, but I take the metro up and see all the cool architecture and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
There's so much.
it seems like you would love
No, I'd eat it up.
DC.
Oh,
That's cool. But yeah, believe it or not, we're actually starting to near the end of this episode.
dang.
It flies.
Oh,
The
God,
time
yeah,
always
it's
flies. But as you mentioned, you saw a couple episodes. Something I like to do at the end is just give the person being interviewed an opportunity to share, whether that's along the lines of things that we've already talked about, something that you came wanting to talk about today, just kind of give you an opportunity to share something that you find important, just to kind of finish.
Yeah. I came in this with an open mind. I just wanted to let it go where it needed to, but I have maybe two takeaways
Go for it.
that I think I really want to drive home for people. I have not figured life out. Because life is complicated, it's messy, I haven't figured it out. But, speaking to people that are interested in creativity and want to explore, what it means to be creative, creativity can truly be found everywhere. And that's been said before. But really, you can find inspiration in so many things. And for me, it's architecture, it's nature, it's people. And so you just got to find what you're drawn to and own it. And, along with owning it, own who you are. For people who are of color, for multicultural people, for people who aren't, for people, who are just like struggling with their identity, just own it. It's not something that you need to change, or especially change for other people. Like, if you need to change for the better, do it for yourself. And people are there hopefully to support you in whatever you need to do, but just like all of who you are. And I think that goes such a long way, and I feel like that helps with creativity. There are so many people that are trying to just like fake creativity by just kind of course you can source like good work, but when you try to copy something that's not you, it doesn't work. You can see it so fast, you're like, do you even like this?
Yeah.
Like, I've done it before. So yeah, I would say those are my final thoughts.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gabe, for your time today. I've really appreciated just, your honesty and upfrontedness on just all the topics we talked about today. And I definitely agree. I've learned a lot this semester, just the importance of being passionate about the things that you're involved in.
Totally.
It's kind of a cheat to other people to be involved in things that you're not passionate about, because just like if you're copying someone else, you're not putting your heart and soul into it, and you're not able to touch or connect with people otherwise. And I just kind of want to add that on to what you shared. But I wish you the best of luck as you finish up your senior year in the ad program. I know it's hectic. I know there's a lot with the portfolio you got to put together, and kind of scrambling to put everything together. But I wish you the best luck with that, and with Sundance, and wherever it is that life takes you afterwards.
Hey, I appreciate it. I hope that you get in.
Yeah,
you deserve it. So.
I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll go ahead and end there.
Sweet. That was awesome.